Chargers fans, what is going on? Today, we got a very special live stream because we are going to be doing a mock draft where you are the one that is going to pick who we're going to take tomorrow. Don't pick Joe Alt, don't pick JC Latham. We're going to be fine, okay? You and me, we're going to stay friends. But also, I got a friend joining us today who is from the Lightning Round podcast. This is my favorite Chargers podcast. If you guys don't listen to him, please go listen to him. You probably do already, but here he is. Garrett Sisti is going to be helping us. He's going to be the assistant scout today, just like me, because you guys are the GM. You guys are Mr. Joe Hortiz. But I think what I want to do, actually, before we start talking about this draft, you know what I want to do, Garrett? I actually want to talk about JC Latham first, because there's been a lot of talk about the Chargers going for a guy like JC Latham, even Joe Alt. As you can see, Daniel Jeremiah, this is his most recent mock draft. Joe Alt at 7, and the Chargers picked the first offensive lineman. It's JC Latham at 5. They don't even trade down to get to that spot. So, I don't know. First of all, what are your thoughts about taking JC Latham at 5? And then we'll talk about just taking him overall, like in a trade down scenario. So JC Latham at 5, what are your thoughts there?
Of a tackle worth taking that high, and I think Fuaga is the better tackle there. He's my tackle 1 on this board. But if we're talking just specifically Latham, a very good pass protector, big body. You love his footwork, especially in the pocket and to mirror pass rushers. This feels like a kind of I know there's going to be a lot of DJ Fluker parallels to a lot of Charger fans, but this kid is much better than DJ Fluker coming out of college. He has been a right tackle and has taken on some of the best pass rushers in the SEC on the right side and held his own. He has gone against some top-end competition, and it felt a lot like a poor man's Tristan Wirfs while I was watching him. Not as athletic. He's got a little bit of those chops, but he can plow in the running game, and he does pretty good in the passing game too. So as a player, he's good. If you're trading down and you're thinking about him at 11, I'm happy. If you're taking him straight up at 5 and the Chargers are sticking and picking, that's a little too rich for me, especially with all the holes on the roster.
I would totally agree with that. Like JC Latham, you guys are watching the film right now. This is him against Mississippi State. You're going to see a lot of good reps. I didn't really see a single rep in this game, and I actually just watched it about 2 hours ago for the second time. I didn't see a single rep where I think he just flat out lost. He's a really good pass protector. He anchors so extremely well. He's not going to get beat with power because he's got some crazy power himself. But he's also a really good run blocker. He's got really fluid movement. You saw it just right there. He got to the second level so quickly, so fluidly. He's probably the most fluid mover in this entire draft. You can see his power too, man. He's pushing guys around. And when you have that combination of that power and the movement skills, and also look at those hands. He's got really grippy hands, keeps him to the inside of the chest as well. And when the quarterback goes out towards his side, and he's like scrambling towards that side, he's actually really, really good at taking those hands off. I don't want to get a holding penalty. So that tells me that he's coachable and he's listening to what those Alabama offensive line coaches are telling him in order to not get penalized. I think he this isn't really like only, but I think he had 7 penalties this past season. And I think that was the most that he's had throughout his career at Alabama. So he does get penalized. And I think if the Chargers take him, let me know what you think, Garrett, because I think if the Chargers take him, which it kind of feels likely right now, I'm going to be honest with you, but okay. I think he'd be at right guard, and then you move him out to right tackle after this season, depending on how he plays. You can slide him out there, because I actually think this is going to be the last year that we have of Trey Pipkins at right tackle.
Yeah, I don't see the move to right guard, just in how they're trying to set up the young guys and Salyer, Zion, and then they're going to put Bozeman in the middle. But I understand your thinking, but it feels like they're going to go, to me, in my opinion, they're going to go into right tackle with a competition, have Trey Pipkins, have Latham compete for right tackle. If you're drafting him in the first round, it's hard to sit a man like that. So you got to imagine that he's going to end up winning that job, but you do have the luxury to sit him. that's where we kind of get into a little dilemma on taking an offensive tackle this high when you already have kind of your stopgap right tackle, which will be here for this season and most likely not next season because they have an out in his contract. But I mean, if you Latham is a guy that fits this new system. He is really good in this power run gap that they want to do, this scheme that Roman wants to run. And for anybody that loves road graders and just big boys, big hosses on the end of your line, he had 41 pancake blocks in 2 seasons at Alabama. So this is a man who finishes off every single block he gets. So I know Charger fans will be a big fan. Might not be a fan of the pick at 5, but when he gets on the field, he is a mean dude. So you love a right tackle with a mean streak, and that's why I enjoyed watching Latham. Again, feels a little rich for me at 5, but I would think that they would probably try to run him out at right tackle with Trey Pipkins in camp, and then eventually have Latham just take over, whether it's game 1 or they start to see how Pipkins does throughout the season, and then just replace him midseason.
Okay, that's really interesting that you see him just staying out there at tackle. Because he is 6'6", right? I think he's like 330. So I mean, you can play him at guard. It's not like he's 6'8" like Joe Alt is.
Yeah.
But yeah, having that competition at tackle, I don't know, because I think, oh man, what would you rather do, Garrett? Would you rather keep Trey Pipkins at right tackle for this last season? Because I mean, here's the thing too. Also, is that Trey Pipkins, he's got that out on his contract. So both Garrett and I are pretty certain that he's not going to be on this team after this year. But do you just have this 1 year where you're stuck with Trey Pipkins? He's an average right tackle, so you just keep him out there. And your guard spot is less than average, and you put JC Latham there just for that first year? I mean, I don't know. It's definitely something to consider. I think right tackle, it's just that's what he's going to be in the long term anyways. But that's the JC Latham conversation. Joe Alt is the same kind of conversation, even though I don't think you could put him at guard. He's definitely going to be a tackle. But now we've talked about JC Latham enough in this offensive line enough. It is time for you guys to do your mock draft. Please don't take Joe Alt or JC Latham. Let's go right into it. You saw the sliders. This is PFF. And let's see who's available. Okay, so the very first pick. Do I even need to do a poll right here? Let me just do this poll. So obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the first name. I mean, who else? I'll just put Joe Alt.
You no Brock Bowers? You won't even Ora Dunze?
Brock Bowers. I guess we'll put on Brock Bowers for you guys. There are a couple Brock Bowers stands. And then Romo Dunze. Sure.
Yeah. Some people have a Dunze as their wide receiver 1 to 3. They vary on him.
I know Daniel Jeremiah has a lot of high praise for Romo Dunze. But I think this one's going to be pretty easy. Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, he's my wide receiver 1, my favorite player in this class. He's my number 1 overall player.
I think he's probably my number 1 too. I got Malik Nabers right underneath him, though. I think both of those guys are going to be really good wide receivers in the NFL. Which makes that would make an offensive lineman pick at 5 even more. I really hope it doesn't happen, but I'm like, I'm totally bought into all these reports. Okay, we got the votes in. I'm going to end the poll. Marvin Harrison Jr. easily, far and away is the pick. And if he's there, the reports are still that Marvin Harrison Jr. would be the pick. It's either between him and Joe Alt if Marvin Harrison Jr. is there. So we're going to take him. We're not trading down. We're not doing anything. But in the second round, this is a spot where sometimes people do like to trade down. And if we look at this tackle board right here, Jordan Morgan is gone. Kingsley Suamataia, Tyler Guyton even went. That is a developmental tackle. Amarius Mims, Graham Barton. We're getting into a little bit of trouble here because a lot of these offensive linemen are going. We have an interior in Zach Frazier. Let's go ahead and put up this poll. What do you think? What is your pick right here, Garrett? You're going to be the scout GM. We're going to put up one name in the poll here for you.
I would say Zach Frazier deserves to be in there.
Okay.
And then if I could just point you in a position group, I think the second round is a really, really good spot to take a corner, which is obviously a big position of need for the Chargers too.
Zach Frazier. A lot of people say Mike Sainristil. I'll put Mike
Yeah.
Sainristil, but I also want to put a boundary corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to filter this to the cornerbacks. Ennis Rakestraw Jr. is here, TJ Tampa, Kamari Lassiter, and I think that's where you stop looking.
Mhm.
So I'm going to say the pick here for me to put on, Edgerrin Cooper, some people are saying. Ooh, a lot of people are saying Mike Sainristil. I think I'm going to put in Kamari Lassiter, actually.
Mhm. That would be my favorite corner of this group. So I think that's a good choice.
And then let's look at who else is on the board in this second round. Peyton Wilson. Injuries scare me. He's also 24 years old. Tyler Nubin. I think it's a bit too early for safety.
Mhm.
Look at these receivers available too. I mean, the run on offensive tackles was a lot, but the run on receivers was kind of just as bad because now Troy Franklin, Lad McConkey are the top two. I would be interested in Jalen Polk and Xavier Legette to have like a big bodied wide receiver in the third round, but I'm not
Mhm.
considering wide receiver in second round, I think. So I'm just going to go ahead and do TJ Tampa as the last in this poll. So
Okay.
who are you guys going to pick in the second round here? A lot of people are saying Edgerrin Cooper, Mike Sainristil is pretty far and away the favorite, it looks like, at least in the chat. Trade down and get Kyrie Jackson and an extra third round pick. Should I put trade in the options here? Oh, Mike Sainristil, Zach Frazier, battling it out. Okay.
I think this is a good exercise to show you that if the Chargers do end up going JC Latham or Alt or Fuaga or who else, that wide receiver drops off pretty quick in the first round. Between tackle and wide receiver, you are bare bones here. You're at pretty good wide receiver 2 territory, but your wide receiver 1s are all but gone at this point.
We have some people. Johnny wants a trade, but I think okay, let's think about this. If there is a trade option here, I think it would be for Michael Penix Jr. Because no one really fell out of the first round that I think someone would really, really want to trade up for. So
Mm-hmm.
Michael Penix Jr., what is a QB needy team right now that did not take one? I think it's the
The
only really.
Raiders, the
Yep,
Raiders have been rumored to be in on Penix.
they have,
They took
yes,
Fuaga.
and Jaden Daniels, but they're not going to have the capital to go up for Jaden Daniels.
Mm-mm.
I think the
So they took
Broncos,
Fuaga at 13. So they're still need a quarterback.
Broncos and Raiders might want to trade down. Do you guys want to trade? Because if we're not trading here, the poll was Mike Sainristil. Mike Sainristil was the winner in the second round. So it
Okay.
would be Marvin Harrison Jr. in the first, and then Mikey Sainristil in the second, unless you want to trade down with the division rival. Trade down. I'm going to have to make another poll. It's either Mike Sainristil or trade down. That's what we're going to
Okay.
do.
It's not a bad spot to trade down, especially if nobody's really convinced on anybody. Because there's quite a bit of cornerbacks there. There's a cluster of 4 guys that look like 3 or 4 guys that you could get a little bit later if you trade down.
Trade down is winning now. Oh, man. Trade down is like far and away winning. Okay. So we might have to work this trade out here with the Raiders. That is the team. Okay, so we're going to give up 37. We want 44. What else do we want? Because they are going to get Michael Penix here. That's going to be their franchise quarterback.
Mhm.
I think we could get 77. PFF doesn't think that's going to happen. I think we could actually get even more than this. What do you think, Garrett?
Yeah, I think you can. If you're moving up 7 spots, you could most likely get that 112, 44, 112, and probably something next year is what my guess would be.
And then we'll take, I think, a third next year because that's about the value of a fourth for this year.
Mm-hmm.
Let's offer that, see if they take it. They do. So what we're going to do is we are going to trade down with the Raiders in the second round. Rare divisional trade. But now we still have, they didn't even take Michael Penix Jr. Who did they take? Ennis Rakestraw? That was one of the guys that we were going to take, maybe. And then Zach Frazier is gone as well. Patrick Paul even is gone. Mike Sainristil is not here.
Yep, he went to Washington.
Okay, now the guys that I'm looking at, chat, Can I interest you in a Braden Fisk, extremely athletic interior defensive lineman? We've not had a very good pass rusher on the interior in a long time. That's why I'm going to be putting in the poll. Garrett, who do you want to put in the poll at this point? We already took Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, did Lassiter get taken? Because that would be somebody I'd like to put in the poll.
I believe he did. Did he? No.
Nope, he's there.
Oh my gosh. Kamari Lassiter is. TJ Tampa is here too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm thinking TJ Tampa, Braden Fisk, Kamari Lassiter. Do we even need one more? Blake Corum?
No, not yet. Not Corum yet.
All right.
I think that's a pretty good 3.
Kamari Lassiter, very physical corner. Only concern really with him is that 4.6 40.
Yeah, plays a lot faster than his 40 time.
He does. He's another fluid mover too. And then TJ Tampa.
He's, to me, one of the most well-rounded corners of this class. I like him a lot.
Do you have him as your first corner? Like your top corner?
No. He is, let me look. We put a little draft guide together, so I got we ranked everybody, and I've got him as Lassiter is CB6 behind Arnold, Mitchell, Cooper, Rakestraw, Wiggins, and then Lassiter. But he has a second round grade, so this is about where I'd have him.
So you actually like Nate Wiggins more than Kamari Lassiter?
I do, yeah. Yep. Body type scares me a little bit, but I really feel like Wiggins has got enough there. He's actually only separated by 1 point, so not by much.
This is really close right now. The chat definitely wants a cornerback. Somebody says Lassiter is way better than Tampa, and Kamari Lassiter is winning just barely. TJ Tampa is catching up right now. It's actually dead even. I don't know, guys. We need a cornerback this mock, but in reality, we better hope it's not TJ Tampa. Not really a fit. I actually think TJ Tampa kind of is a fit. He's got the size to play on the outside. Really, the biggest thing to me is having the size to play on the outside, and honestly, just being a good fluid mover that can just flip your hips. Everything else can be coached up, and we have a coaching staff now that is big on developing talent. Wiggins won't hold up in run support. I agree. What were you going to say, Garrett?
What about Tom Telesco giving us the old okie doke? He trades up thinking where he's going to take Penix and then takes the cornerback right from under us.
Dude, he played us. Yeah, because Ennis Rakestraw might have been the pick here. Kamari Lassiter is going to be the pick. He finally won out. So we're going to take Kamari. Well, you guys are going to take Kamari Lassiter. I have to go to the cornerback room here. That is the pick in the second round. So we are addressing both premier positions in wide receiver and cornerback. On the boundary, we need to get a little more beef, I think. And right now, can I interest you in Christian Haynes, the guard from Connecticut? That's my guy that I'm putting on the poll. Garrett, who do you have your eye on right now?
Blake Fisher, Notre Dame.
Blake Fisher.
2-year starter, right tackle. You didn't get a right tackle in the first 2 rounds. We talked about it a little bit before the show, but you don't take a tackle here in the 3rd round, there's a big drop off. It's very top heavy. Blake Fisher has some starter traits, and it's a drop in place kind of guy. You put right tackle, at least not this year, but maybe next. But he is an easy fit for the Chargers.
I'm also going to put Junior Colson there because we got some guys in the chat that like Junior Colson. I think Junior Colson is a good fit in the 3rd round. It's kind of rich to take a linebacker in the 3rd round, but I do like Junior Colson a lot. He's a young linebacker. He's got a great story, and he's only been playing football for a few years, and he's got such a good football IQ. He's got really good instincts for the position, I think. So that's something that is a very good sign. I think also Trey Benson might be getting some good looks here in the 3rd round. Might be the best running back in the class. Jalen Wright is here as well. What do you think for running back? Would you have Jonathan Brooks, Jalen Wright, or Trey Benson? Jonathan Brooks is actually gone.
Yeah, I wouldn't take Jonathan Brooks. I think Jalen Wright and Trey Benson are some of the best fits for the Chargers. I've got Trey Benson as my RB1. I like him a lot. If you want a little bit more gas and a little bit more explosion, it's Jalen Wright. But it does feel a little, I mean, I know listen, you guys are drafting, not me, but does feel a little early for a running back after signing J.K. Dobbins just a few days ago. So, but I would probably put Trey Benson in there.
Okay. I'm going to put Trey Benson and Jalen Wright in the same pick. And then if that wins, we're going to do a different poll because I got some people saying Trey Benson, some people saying Jalen Wright.
Yeah, just depends on what you prefer.
I think if it were me, I had to pick a running back here, I would probably pick Trey Benson. Blake Corum actually went 2. And that was there was a report, I don't know if you saw this, Garrett. There was a report that Blake Corum on day 2 is somebody that the Chargers are really interested in.
Yeah.
That would that has the same feel to me as the Chargers taking an offensive lineman at 5.
Yeah. Yep.
Trey Benson is more cowbell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure they need that.
Yeah, I honestly
they
feel
need a little extra.
Corum is too old. Yeah, he's got age and injury concerns. I mean, Blake Corum is actually older than Patrick Surtain, who I talked about today in my video about possibly trading for Patrick Surtain. But yeah, Blake Corum, he had that injury to his knee, and then he came back this past season. He didn't look as good as he did pre-injury, so that was really concerning for me. Junior Colson looks like he won the poll in the 3rd round, so we're actually going to be hitting on linebacker. Okay. How do you like this pick, Garrett?
I am lukewarm on it. I am more of a bet on traits in day 3 type guy. It's a big need, so that I do understand. I feel like there's some guys later on that really have the traits to be a run and gun type linebacker in this system. And Colson, obviously, with Harbaugh before, he knows to expect. But I think he's pretty quick, but I have real issues with his diagnosis, especially in the run game. I click and close this. It's a little too slow, but I get it because you now need another linebacker. It's Henley and it's Perryman, and then just a bunch of guys. So getting that linebacker early, you still have a chance to get another linebacker later too if you want to double dip.
If this were me, I would probably take either Blake Fisher or Christian Haynes. I'd be more inclined to take Christian Haynes, I think. But chat, you are GM. This is your mock draft. You want Junior Colson. That's who you're gonna get, for better or for worse. We warned you. Okay. So now we have Ben Sinnott and Michael Hall Jr. I think those are 2 guys I'm definitely going to have on this poll. I'm trying to look at it. Jacob Cowing is here. I know both Craig and Jamie from the Lightning Round podcast love Jacob Cowing. But Ben Sinnott and Michael Hall, who are you looking at, Garrett? Do you want me to go to a specific position here?
No, this is, and I love this run right here. 105, 110, 112, really fleeced Telesco here. So I'm looking at Ben Sinnott, I think deserves to be in the conversation here. I could wait on Jacob Cowing. I think if you wanted to throw Jared Wiley in there, a lot of people like Jared Wiley. Michael Hall Jr. I'm a big fan of. And then, I think you could wait on wide receiver, but I think there's a corner if you wanted to double dip here. There's a pretty good group of corners here. Darian Jones being one of them. There's a couple others. This is a pretty good spot for them.
Miles Harden from South Dakota.
I'd wait a little bit there, but Darian Jones, KAD are pretty good options here. Though you've got 2 picks coming up real soon, so
those are both.
You wanted to wait.
Those are both slot guys. That's my only concern with that, because we did. Okay.
Yeah.
That changes things a lot.
Yeah. So if Lasser's on the outside, now you got your slot corner.
Okay. So let's see. Anyone in the chat? Michael Hall, Cam Hart. Somebody said in the chat. Cam Hart from Notre Dame. I would rather have Jarian Jones. I think Jarian Jones is really feisty. I like him.
Yeah.
So let's do Jarian Jones, Ben Sinnott, Michael Hall, and Jared Wiley. Those are your options right now. And I think a lot of these guys are going to be there for these next 2 picks. So we might actually be able to get 3 out of the 4 of these guys. Michael Hall Jr. is winning right now. Oh, now it's actually pretty close. It's really kind of a flavor thing, I think, at this point in the draft. We're in day 3. DeCamerion Richardson. If I recall correctly, he had a top 30 visit with the Chargers. Isn't that right?
Yes. Yeah, he did.
I never watched the tape on him. I was meaning to get to that, but did you?
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty good kid. I think I'm looking at him more in a little bit later in day 3, like round 5 or 6. I think there's some good traits. The foot speed and the eyes could use some work, but tackling's really good, and he's not bad in the run game. Better than expected. And in this scenario, I really like Sinnott, excuse me, Ben Sinnott. Here, I don't know what the chat thinks, but
is that the correct pronunciation? Sinnott? It's not
Sinnott,
Sinnott.
yeah.
Ben Sinnott.
Yeah, Sinnott. I know, with an O.
I think Michael Hall Jr. is the winner here.
Okay.
I'm going to end the poll. Michael Hall Jr. So we're going to get that interior defensive line help. We haven't taken offensive linemen yet, have we? I just want to go back and make sure. We had Junior Colson, Kamari Lassiter, and then we took Marvin Harrison Jr. in the first round. So we have boundary help. Yep. We have defensive help. We have some beef on defense now. I really want to interest you in some offensive line help. So let me try to find somebody. Oh, man.
Sinnott went right before at 109.
He did. Ben Sinnott went one pick before us. Oh, man. Tyke Smith. Do we look at a safety here? Jared Wiley is going to be in the poll. Hunter Norzad. I just don't like Trevor Keegan. Okay. I would actually put Trevor Keegan up here. Probably the best interior offensive lineman on the board still remaining, and he has that connection to Jim Harbaugh. Zach Zinter is also still here. I might actually like Zach Zinter more than Trevor Keegan, although they're pretty similar. Zach Zinter, he broke his leg, I think this past season, but he's a 6'6" guard. He's really physical as well. He can play the run really nicely. He's got good eyes also in pass protection. I think Zach Zinter would be my guy that I'm putting on the board, but I do still like some of these guys, Beaux Limmer, Dylan McMahon, and Tanner Bortolini.
Yep, that's the one I was hoping you would talk about.
You like Tanner Bortolini?
Yep. He's my favorite interior guy of the guys left. Very smart, physical, does really good work in tight spaces, and the hands are good, and the anchor is an absolute winner. He feels more like a top of 4th round type guy. This is about the right spot. He's a starter down the road. I like Bortolini.
All right, so we have...
But tackle's going to be something you're going to have to look at soon.
Let's just go ahead and look at it right now. Isaiah Adams from Illinois. Christian Jones. I mean, I watched Texas, and I wasn't too impressed. Javon Foster is a really big offensive tackle. I think he's like 6... No, he's only 6'5". Who am I thinking of then? No.
I'm not sure.
I remember there was some huge tackle. I thought it was Missouri. It's not Utah, is it? Satoma? No. Maybe it's the guy already went. But I was thinking of some big tackle. Frank Crum from Wyoming, right?
Oh, the
6'7",
Wyoming kid?
and he's like an extreme athlete. I actually had him in my sleeper, or no, it was my 7-round mock draft video. I took him, but it was later on. I think you could address the tackle position later on. That's a really developmental guy. So that's who's available. I don't think I would hit this position right now because we have Jared Wiley still here. Would you consider Cameron Kitchens, or are we going to put Jerry and Jones on the board? We have Tanner Bortolini, Zach Zinter, and Jared Wiley. We need one more.
I think you got to go Jerry and Jones.
I would agree with that.
That's the 4th option, at least. Yeah.
So those are your options, chat. We can either hit cornerback, again with Jerry and Jones, more of a nickel cornerback. Not as good as Mike Sainristil, but he's probably the next best nickel cornerback in my eyes. A lot of people like Jerry and Jones. Tanner Bortolini, the center. Zach Zinter, a guard. And Jared Wiley, very big tight end, kind of like Donald Parham size. He's, what is he, 6'7" to 6'8"? 6'7".
Mm-hmm.
Jerry and Jones is winning right now. So we're addressing defense a lot with Michael Hall Jr., Junior Colson, Kamari Lassiter, Jerry and Jones. Jesse Minter loves this draft.
Michael Hall Jr. This is a good one. This is a lot of defense. I think Chat's gonna need to make up for it a little bit in these later rounds, but that's why they traded down and got an extra pick. Because I think
That
in the neck,
112, yeah.
there's gonna be one pick in between them, but still see Jacob Cowing, who I'm a big fan of too. Obviously, Craig and Jamie are bigger fans of him than me, but really, really nice option. Could automatically compete for wide receiver 2 in camp with QJ and Palmer.
So chat far and away wants Jerry and Jones. I like the pick. Cameron Kitchens went at 111, and now we're right back on the board at 112. Jared Wiley, Jacob Cowing. Do we put the same guys on the board? I don't think we should go for a receiver here, like until maybe like the 6th round. I don't know. You tell me your thoughts, because we have Marvin Harrison Jr. and I want to give Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston a chance this year, but
sure.
I also want to address the offensive line, guys. Please. Zach Zinter and Trevor Keegan are both still available. We do still have Tanner Bortolini.
Yep.
So I think we might put 3, maybe
Jared
even
Wiley
4
too.
Jared Wiley is here, so let's do 3 interior offensive linemen, right? Can we agree on this? And then Jared Wiley, the tight end, very big tight end.
Okay, all right.
We'll do Tanner Bortolini. I know that's your guy, Mr. Garrett Sisti.
That's my dude, yep.
I'll put in Zach Zinter because I think that's my favorite guard. And then we'll do another guard. Would you rather put on Dylan McMahon or Trevor Keegan?
Keegan.
Trevor Keegan. Yep. You're a smart man.
I like Beaux too. He would be in the conversation there, Beaux Limmer. But yeah, I think you're all right there with Keegan.
I like Beaux Limmer too. I think I took him in the 5th round in the mock draft that I did before. But I would really like an interior offensive lineman right here. And I wouldn't mind double dipping on that position. We need a center as well, somebody said. Aiden, why is no one thinking about Jamari Sawyer at right tackle? He crushed it in his rookie year at left tackle. I think Jamari Sawyer is kind of projected better to be a guard, in my opinion. He did play well in the absence of Rashawn Slater at left tackle, but I'd much rather have him at guard. What are your thoughts, Garrett, about possibly moving Sawyer out to right tackle?
Yeah, great his rookie year. Struggled towards the end of it, but it was kind of a worst case scenario when Slater went down. He was not suited to be NFL left tackle long term. He was always projected to be a guard because of his size and length, and that's where he's supposed to be. And I think he still can improve in this system. I feel like this is a lot more suited towards him, about just going after the guy in front of you. There's a lot more power than finesse this season. So I still have high hopes for him at guard. We'll kind of see how that goes, but I don't think flipping him out from left tackle to right tackle makes a ton of sense. You got Pipkins already there. You're going to have to get another, just a natural right tackle. Salyer is guard long term.
In the 1st round, JC Latham or Joe Alt.
Yep.
Looks like Tanner Bortolini. Oh, Zach Zinter is catching up, but I think Tanner Bortolini has won this. Which we do need a center.
Yep.
So we're going to take Tanner Bortolini. That's going to be hopefully our center of the future after this season, with Bradley Bozeman starting at center, who is serviceable, but I think he's only on a 1-year contract as well. I wouldn't expect that to, be renewed. Cole Bishop is staring at me right in the face. Okay. I really like that pick. The Eric Weddle comps are there. Do we take a safety with some of these other guys on the board? Cedric Gray, but we already hit on linebacker. We already hit Junior Colson.
Yep. Cedric Gray, I absolutely love here. This is my spot for him. I think he's got some LB1 potential, but I think at this point you might need to throw in Theo Johnson. You missed out on Ben Sinnott. You missed out on Jared Wiley. You got Theo Johnson, who, had the 2nd best performance from a tight end ever. Lined up everywhere at Penn State. He's going to be a Y tight end in the NFL. The only issues are his drops. The hands are pretty inconsistent. The mechanics are good up until they hit his hands, but he can move. Nice feel for open spaces, and this is a big position to need too. So I think after this, you're kind of just taking some dart throws at tight ends. This is your almost bottom tier of potential starting tight ends still left. I know there's a couple that have a little bit of traits, but Theo Johnson, I think, is the best of the bunch left.
Yeah, Tanner McLaughlin, former wide
Mhm.
receiver. He's more of a receiving tight end. AJ Barner,
Mhm.
more of a blocker. He played 4 years at what school did he play at before he transferred to Michigan? But he had 1 year at Michigan and just shot up in the PFF rankings. He had a breakout year and was also catching the ball pretty well. That's another guy that is kind of a sleeper. You would take Theo Johnson over him, but that's who's available if you don't take Theo Johnson here. Uh,
Mhm.
let's see who. Someone said Marist Liufau in the chat.
Was it Indiana that you're thinking of? Is that where he played?
Um, oh, I think so. Maybe
Yeah. Sorry.
AJ Barner at Indiana. Maybe, but yeah, he was a 4 year player and then transferred. Uh,
Yeah.
yes, Indiana. Williams says okay. It was Indiana.
Cool.
Good looking out,
All
Garrett. Mason
right.
Smith, I think, is another name that we got to consider. This is a guy, I think he was
Absolutely.
getting first round buzz in like the summer because he's got all the intangibles that you want. The size is really good. He's only 21 years old still. Didn't really
Mhm.
have a great year this past season. He needs to get better with the fundamentals, but you're drafting projects at day 3. So, what are your thoughts on Mason Smith, man?
So I think this is a great spot for him. I really like him here. I think yeah, Cole Bishop, Mason Smith, and Cedric Gray are kind of like some diamonds in the rough here in the 5th round. I like that lineup right there a lot. I know Chad already took a linebacker, so you're not looking at Gray, but I'm just saying long term. When you look at the day 3 when they hit the draft on Saturday, but also maybe start thinking about tackle. I see Caden Wallace there might be an option, but that ship might have already sailed
I think
for
it did.
tackle. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When you pass on Blake Fisher in the 3rd, it's a rough group after that.
I'm looking at Frank Crum as really the only guy that I kind of believe in down here. And we could get him in the 6th, 7th round.
Yeah, Andrew Coker's another. The TCU kid is another one that you could get in the 7th. That was a right tackle, could project as a nice little swing tackle.
All right, let's see what this poll is at. Theo Johnson is winning the poll. I do like that pick of Theo Johnson. We are passing on some good defensive players, but we did already
Mhm.
draft a bunch of good defensive players.
Yep. Yep.
And I also like how we're drafting Theo Johnson here. And those 2 free agent pickups that we had, Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst, it's not affecting our draft strategy, which I don't think it should. I think Hayden Hurst is going to be involved in the passing game, probably more than people think, but can he stay healthy? Is he a long-term option? I don't really think he is. So we
Mhm.
do still need a tight end, especially considering how many freaking tight ends are going to be used in this offense. Like 3 tight end sets, we're going to see that. We're even going to see like extra offensive linemen out there, like 6th offensive lineman out there lining up at tight end just to be a blocker. Theo Johnson is winning this poll. I'm going to end this poll. This is Theo Johnson here. Hopefully one of those 3 guys, like Cole Bishop, I'm really looking at, is going to be there in the 6th round. That would be crazy if he
Yeah.
is. But we're going to take Theo Johnson here because you guys are GM.
Yep.
And now Beaux Limmer. Okay. Josh Proctor, the safety. I like Darius Musow. He was kind of the leader, the signal caller on that UCLA defense. He plays sideline to sideline, but he's got some instinctual issues. Grayson Murphy, he's got good hands. I don't know if I'm really confident in his ability to like really develop though. And do we take an edge? I think the Chargers could take an edge later on because the Ravens, they love to draft edge players. I just
Mhm.
don't know if the right one would be there later on that has a bunch of tools. I don't know.
Yeah, that feels like a next year problem with Bosa, Mack, and Thule already there as your starters. Rumpf being thrown in there, and then some of the other guys that were UDFAs last year that kind of showed up a little bit in preseason is going to be a camp competition. You're not going to look to really add any starters today, so or at least this season. But I think this is a good spot for another linebacker if you wanted to double dip here. I like Tyron Hopper that I saw when you scrolled down. I saw
Okay.
his name. But round 6, I really like the running backs. It feels like there's a really good cluster of. You saw Isaac Guerendo, who blew up the combine, an absolute rocket. Kamani Vidal is really good from Troy, and then there's Rashina Lee, another small school kid who's really good. So if you want to add some gas to this running back lineup, which I think they're gonna need a little bit more of, because they've got some power. I like that trio right there. I
Oh,
think Guriendo's my top running back of that 4.
is it because he lit up the combine?
It's the speed and it's hit the eyes. The eyes are really good. The cutability is kind of hit or miss, but this is a kid who sat behind Braylon Allen at Wisconsin, so didn't get really a starter's rep until this year. He transferred to Louisville and finally got some starters reps, and he averaged over 6 yards per carry. So a kid that starts out real fast out of the gates and can pick up chunks in a hurry. So it just feels like of this group, while J.K. Dobbins has some explosive elements after the injury history, you don't know what kind of guy you have, but with Gus and then with Spiller, they're more power backs. If you can get somebody who's actually got some really good hands too in the passing game, I think he'd be a real nice complement to that already pretty stacked running back group.
I really like Frank Gore Jr. a lot, and I think we can get him in the 7th round. So I think that's something to consider when we're thinking about taking a running back here. Who's on the board that we would take if we don't take a running back? Like Josh Proctor, Tyron Hopper, and maybe Darius Muasau.
If you wanted to double dip on interior, Beaux Limmer's still there. So
Could take
he's a
2 centers. Yeah. We'll put
one you
Beaux
could
Limmer.
project. He started at guard
He
for
did.
most of his career and then landed at center in his last year. So he's got flexibility, which is good. Really good launch off the line, turns defenders in space. Kind of more of a finesse blocker, but he is a really, really good fit in this power system. I think he would be a pretty good fit and a guy that has some flexibility playing guard or center.
Right. I think he played right guard in 2022, and he's another guy who tore up the combine. And that's kind of what you want with these like projects that were taken in the 6th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. You want guys that have the intangibles and that don't get injured. Guys that can play special teams too. I think, both of those interior offensive linemen can be played on special teams.
Yeah, and Bortolini also, same thing. Played a lot of guard, finished his season up at Wisconsin as a center. So you've got some real position flexibility if you grab both those guys.
Looks like the running back is actually going to win here.
I know you didn't want that. I'm sorry to even bring that up.
No, that's good because one of those guys might fall. Maybe Beaux Limmer falls in the 7th. We'll see. But I would have really liked Frank Gore Jr. But you know what? This is your mock draft, chat. This is the official Chargers fan mock draft. Where is he? There he is. Isaac Guerendo is our 6th round pick. So now we have a pretty good running back room. Isaiah Spiller, Elijah Dotson kind of on the outside looking in, I think. Okay. Tyler Owens, the safety from Texas Tech, is some guy that stands out to me immediately. Jalen Simpson is here too. Yep. So now I'm thinking safety.
I like Simpson. Some really good, really quick, high traits, versatile DB. Played inside, outside. Played some free safety, strong safety. There's some position flexibility too that you really like to take later in the draft. Guys that can play multiple positions, figure out where they best land, and then and get them in camp and figure it out.
I'm also probably going to put Frank Crum on the poll, chat, because we still did not hit on tackles. So that's what I'm going to offer up. Garrett, who did you want to offer up? Who's your first one?
Jalen Simpson.
Jalen Simpson, right. And then we also have Tyler Owens. He's got to be on the board there.
Yep. That's a good one.
And then, guys, these are all players that are going to probably come in and contribute immediately on special teams. That's kind of what I'm thinking of right now. Do we even look at linebacker? Because when I think of special teams contributors, I think of linebackers. I wouldn't take any of these guys. What about corner and safety? Because those are also, the Ravens drafted a lot of secondary players later on in the draft, and that's kind of why they had a really good DB room. Josh Wallace kind of stands out to me. I don't know if you know a lot about Josh Wallace. He's a 4-year player at the University of Massachusetts. Again, kind of like AJ Barner, he had that 1 year at Michigan, just immediately soared, played so much better than he did his previous 4 years. I think you get him with the same guys, the same coaches, the same strength staff, and then you see if he can have that same kind of evolution in the NFL. Josh Wallace, William Young likes Josh Wallace. Okay. He was shockingly locked down. And he was a role player at Michigan. He wasn't like a starter. They actually had some dogs back there in that DB room that are going to be coming out next year. But this is going to be the poll. Frank Crum, Jalen Simpson, Tyler Owens, and Josh Wallace. So we got 3 DBs. And I think with this next pick, we're going to be able to hit on one of those DBs that we miss on.
Yeah.
If we want to go that route.
I'd put Ryan Watts and Daquan Hardy in that ring. Kind of some starters, but have very good athleticism and some more flexibility. You're looking at kind of more special teams guys.
Frank Crum is winning the poll. Okay, got some Frank Crum love. I like how we really hit on offensive line a lot in these, picks in day 3, because we did miss out on that on the top end and then also in the middle end. And that's where there's really a lot of depth, is like that kind of middle end of the interior offensive line. And we kind of benefited in that. I like this draft so far, you guys. You guys are doing well.
Trading down in the second round was crucial to be able to kind of stick and pick and collect a lot of these players that were going to fall, because there's some good guys there in the third round.
Frank Crum is the official selection with our first 7th round pick. Now our last pick, chat. Who are we going to take? We got 2 kickers on the top of the board by PFF, but let's go back and look. Was Josh Wallace taken? Josh Wallace is still here. I think that's far away my favorite. Daquan Hardy is here.
Oh, Jalen Simpson's gone.
Just looking at anything else. So I was worried about the secondary versus Washington, Alabama, but they cleaned up versus them. Yeah, William Young is a big Michigan fan, and he was a fan of Josh Wallace. So got some fans of Josh Wallace in the chat. That's going to affect the draft room here. Who would you put on the board here? I know we're in the 7th round. This is very slim pickings, but does anybody stand out to you?
Kendall Milton out of Georgia is another guy that I like with some traits. A DB that is fun. Getting Tua's brother would be a lot of fun just for the troll factor for Dolphins fans. But Kendall Milton is a guy I'd put on there.
Okay. No one really.
It feels like Wallace is gonna take it. It feels
I think so too.
Yeah.
Let's just have those 3 guys: Josh Wallace, Kendall Minton, Talia Tungavailoa.
Oh, you put him on there.
Hey, we took Easton Stick when we had Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
And then also
much earlier than this.
Who was the other quarterback that we took in like the 7th round that never played?
Oh, you're talking about Max Duggan last year?
No, not Max Duggan. It was before Easton Stick. It was man, who was it?
Before Easton Stick.
They drafted somebody else. I think it was in the 7th round. Maybe it was in the 6th round, but they have, well, at least Tom Telesco has drafted quarterbacks late that we never really use. Brad Sorensen. That's who it was. Brad Sorensen. I don't think he ever played in the NFL, did he?
Sorensen?
I mean, we didn't even remember him, remember his name.
Yeah, I know. He bounced around a little bit, but no. Brad Sorensen. How did we forget that? Dang, because
that was a while ago.
There was a time where they were going after nothing but, old vets. And then they got Easton Stick. Like Chase Daniel and the like. But yeah, Sorensen.
All right, Josh Wallace is going to win this far and away. And I actually really like this draft. I think you guys did pretty well here. Let's see what the grade is. Let's see this overall draft. This is going to really help the team. We got an A- grade, as you can see right here. Boom,
Really?
A-.
Okay.
So we have Marvin Harrison Jr., which is, I mean, what do you say about him? He's clearly the number one player in this draft. You can argue Malik Nabers if you want because you really like that athleticism and explosiveness, but I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is just such a crisp, pro-ready guy that you have to have him over Malik Nabers. In my opinion, I would take him. Then Kamari Lassiter. This is your guy, Garrett, in round 2.
Yeah.
You had a lot of say in this pick.
I'm glad because they got their boundary corner and they need it.
And then in the 3rd round, this is a guy that neither of us would have picked, but Junior Colson, the linebacker. I mean, like you said, he has trouble diagnosing at times. He can sometimes shoot the wrong gap, but he's a really fast, really physical player. And I do think he has a high football IQ. Are you on the same page with me there, thinking he's got a high football IQ?
I think, yes. I think it's maybe a little bit above average. I wouldn't say it's excellent, but I think it's good enough that he'll be serviceable in the NFL for sure.
Okay.
And I think even if me and you, don't like this pick, the fact that Chat was able to trade down, you have the luxury of making up for it in the 4th round, which they absolutely did.
Mm-hmm. I like the movement of Junior Colson. I like the fluid movers. We're getting really 3 of those guys, but 2 on defense that we're really going to need. Probably going to start right away. And then Michael Hall Jr., another guy probably going to start right away. Get an interior defensive line help. This is going to really help out this defense, these first 3 picks. And then are these, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round picks. But then in the 4th round, again, we have Jerrion Jones. This is our nickel starter corner for the future. And then, so we have Jerrion Jones, Kamari Lassiter, Asante Samuel Jr., and then I think those are really the only guys. Maybe Jasir Taylor would be a lock on the roster because he did play well later on last year, but there's going to be competition for that nickel spot. I think Jerrion Jones wins it, and then Asante Samuel Jr. probably on the outside opposite of Kamari Lassiter if Christian Fulton doesn't really impress in camp, because I think Christian Fulton would also be in competition to be CB2. But I think Kamari Lassiter probably come in, be CB1 right away, because I think he would win that job in camp. Now,
I love that because you're looking at the 1, 2, 3, 4 top 5 picks are going to be competing for starters. That's, unheard of.
And even Tanner Bortolini actually might compete for the starting job with Bradley Bozeman, because that's not really a sure thing right now. He's just like a serviceable guy, but he was really, really bad in pass protection for the Panthers. So, we want to protect Justin Herbert. Tanner Bortolini, he might be a better pass protector than Bradley Bozeman. If he shows that in camp, he might be starting as well. So we could get, hits on all of these guys. And then Theo Johnson, I think, is also going to get a ton of playing time too at tight end because of how much we utilize tight ends. This is a really good draft. This is going to add a lot of depth on this team. That trade down in the 2nd round was really, really worth it because we got a free Tanner Bortolini out of it. But then in the 6th round, we again add to this run game with Isaac Orendo, who, that's your guy again, Garrett. Very athletic. I think it ran a 4.3 40, or maybe it was like 4.3 flat, something like that. But he also was jumping out of the gym, really explosive as well. The thing to me, like when I was watching him, I didn't really see extreme crazy athleticism like that translate onto the field. That was something that kind of concerned me. That's one of the reasons why I actually like Frank Gore Jr. a little bit more. I got a little bit of a man crush on Frank Gore Jr., if I'm going to be honest with you, because he can pass protect. I watched that game against Mississippi State. He was really pass protecting well. He showed that he can do that, pushing guys on the outside and then also filling the gaps on the inside. And also, he could catch the ball. I even think he threw the ball a couple times, but he's not going to be throwing the ball. He can catch. He can pass protect. That's a 3-down linebacker that I like. I don't think I saw any real pass protection snaps from Isaac Orendo. Did you?
No, not a lot. You felt like the will was there, but kind of being a little bit undersized hurt him against some powerful edge rushers. But yeah, it feels like he ran a 4.33. And even though he doesn't run a 4.33 on the field, he's still really, really fast. He doesn't run as fast as a 40 time. I agree with you there, but it's still, out the gates, to be able to average 6 yards per carry is huge in college. So a guy that really has a lot of explosive runs in his belt, and I think can add a lot to this running back room.
That's actually something that I'm just now thinking of, is that Gus Edwards was really efficient in the NFL. J.K. Dobbins was even more efficient in the NFL. You can argue he had injuries. It's not a great sample size, but he rushed a lot. He had a lot of rushes. And then Isaac Rendo is another really efficient runner. So we have three highly efficient running backs that are getting like 5 yards a pop. That's a good look for the running back room. Frank Crum, the tackle, project tackle from Wyoming. He's a big, athletic guy. I think he ranked 20th on the RAS score, which grades your athleticism. He was 20th best offensive tackle since 1987. So this is a really good get in the 7th round, in my opinion. Did you watch a lot of Frank Crum, Garrett?
I watched a lot of Frank Crum, yes, and I think a very nice gamble in the 7th round. For me, it's about filling out special teams in depth late in this draft, and if you have a guy that's as athletic as he is and tests as well as he did, I think it's worth the gamble there in the 7th, and I think probably might go a little bit higher because of how good he tested. So I think with a guy like Ben Herbert, obviously, and Harbaugh in this system, building up a guy that's got the traits right away day one is really going to help you in this on this team.
Then, with the last 7th round pick, this was a consensus, I think. Josh Wallace in the 7th round, if he's there, he might even go undrafted, but I liked what I saw from Josh Wallace enough to take him in the draft. Again, 4-year player at University of Massachusetts, had a breakout year with his 1 season at Michigan. We got a Michigan fan in the chat, William Young. He said that he was surprisingly a good lockdown corner. He had some, he was a role player kind of for Michigan, but again, they had dogs out there. That was his first season at Michigan. I saw a lot of good stuff from Josh Wallace. Garrett, did you watch a lot of Josh Wallace?
I didn't know.
Okay, it was kind of hard to find tape on him because, again, he was a role player. But this is another good gamble, another guy that can come in and play special teams. And, you think he would, I think he actually might compete for starting time, or not starting time, but time in this defense, in like a nickel or a dime package. Like he could compete with Jasir Taylor is like what I'm trying to say. I think he could compete in year 1.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't get to watch him.
So that is your draft. That is your draft. The official Chargers fan mock draft. I like this a lot. I actually think I like this more than the draft that I did. And I took Mike Sainristil in the 2nd round. What do you think, Garrett? Do you like this draft a lot?
Yeah, I love this draft. Any draft that starts with Marvin Harrison Jr. is a winner in my book. It's more than an A-. It's an A for me right away if you can get MHJ. But Lassiter, to me, I'm just I have a huge man crush on him. He's one of my guys, and to be able to get him in the 2nd round and then trade down and collect on a lot of these high upside guys, I love. We talked about how Colson wasn't the way we would lean, but with the way you're able to make up for it in the 4th round with borderline starters, and all 3 guys have really high upside in Hall, Jerian Jones, and Tanner Bortolini. That's huge. And then to get a guy like Theo Johnson in the 5th, who for some people are talking Theo as the tight end 2 of this class over Stover and Sinnott and Sanders and everybody above them. So even Eric also. To get some people thinking Theo might be tight end. He's not my tight end 2, but have him as high as tight end 2 and to get him in the 5th. That's some athletic upside there in Theo Johnson. And he is a seam killer, something that will really help the Chargers offense. Getting a guy that can, like I talked about, Garendo, who is really good in the passing game and can run at any gym. You'd love to get that in the 6th, and then some really good developmental projects in the 7th. So I can't argue with an A- here. I might bump it up to an A.
Yeah,
in my mind.
The only pick that I kind of am questioning a little bit is the Junior Colson pick, because we both would not have gone in that direction. And I think the guys that were on the board there, they kind of like, we addressed those positions later on with some really good value picks.
Yep.
So this is, I'm in love with this draft. I think you guys did an amazing job. I'm saving this picture for sure. Saving image. Because this is a very good one. I'm going to be tweeting this one out, and we're going to be comparing your draft to the Chargers official draft. Hopefully, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the pick. It might be JC Latham at 5. It might be Joe Alt. We talked about that in the beginning of the stream. But Garrett, thank you so much, man, for joining me. I want to tell you guys really quickly, I've been listening to the Lightning Round podcast for like years, like 10 freaking years when you guys were on Bolts from the Blue. I actually credit a lot of me knowing about football because of listening to you guys, because you were just always so like objective in your view of things, and everything that you said made sense. You explained everything so well. So if it were not for your podcast and if it weren't for you guys, giving your knowledge unto me, I would not be making videos. I would not know nearly as much about football as I do now. You guys were like, really, you guys were like an inspiration for me, honestly, to make videos.
Oh man, that is so sweet. I really do appreciate that. You were a little bit nicer here than you were when I met you at camp, where you're like, you started when you're in high school and made me feel like a old man. But I really appreciate that. We've always tried to stay objective, and it's been a wild ride. We've been here for a long time. Started with no viewers, and the fact that we were able to go so long to encourage people like you to start a podcast and a video like this, I'm very thankful that you're doing it. So thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate the kind words, and thanks for having me on, man. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. And I'm actually really surprised that this turned out really, really well. I'm very happy with this draft, actually. And you guys, chat, there's actually one question in chat that somebody says, do you think we can somehow get Xavier Worthy somewhere down the line if we happen to not take a wide receiver at 5? I'm not too big on Xavier Worthy, because same thing we were talking about with Nate Wiggins earlier on. He's got some size issues. Who was the guy from Washington who also broke the record for the 40 time at the combine, and he ended up
John Ross.
John Ross gives me some John Ross vibes. I wouldn't take a guy that skinny, especially that size. He's not like Troy Franklin kind of skinny. Like Troy Franklin is tall and skinny. Brian Thomas Jr. is really tall and skinny too. Xavier Worthy's not really that kind of body type. It just concerns me. I wouldn't take him in the first round, but speed kills. I don't know if the Chargers would like him. I don't know. I wouldn't do it. Garrett, what do you think about Xavier Worthy?
Yeah, I definitely not in the first round. If you're talking about trading down, I mean, the package is 11 and 23 that everybody's talking about. I wouldn't take him at 23, and even at the top of 2, it feels a little rich. Yeah, the small frame is concerning. 5'11", 165, if I'm not mistaken. But I really like him off the line of scrimmage. He's got really good acceleration, and it feels like he runs like his 40 time. We talk about Garendo might not be as fast as that 4.33, but Xavier Worthy really has that kind of speed where you feel like at any point he could break one. So you have to love that. What I don't love is the size, and I feel like the hands are a little bit inconsistent. I don't feel like it's a good fit for the Charger system, having a smaller wide receiver. A lot of people are going to say, the Chargers already have that in Darius Davis, a fast, small wide receiver. But Worthy, I think, is more equipped to be an NFL wide receiver, even though he is small and skinny. He's not as small as Darius Davis. But a lot of these wide receivers are going to be asked to not only pass block on occasion, but they got to be strong in the run game. And Xavier Worthy is not strong in the run game. So while he adds some speed, and you'd love to have some speed, I'm not sure the fit really fits with what the Chargers are going to want in this system.
Right. Yeah. And guys that can block, Marvin Harrison Jr. can throw a couple blocks too. It's not like he's what do you call it, detriment or something in the run game. Malik Nabers also can throw blocks. I saw him improvising with Jaden Daniels a bunch of times. So both of those receivers can block. Hopefully one of those receivers is the pick at 5. That is our preference. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the stream. Thank you, Garrett, again from the Lightning Round podcast. If you don't listen to the Lightning Round podcast, you absolutely should. And yeah, man, thanks for tuning in. This is the official Chargers fan mock draft. I'll be tweeting out this picture very soon. I think you guys did a great job. And I will see you guys tomorrow during the draft. And also, I think the Lightning Round podcast, you guys are going to be live during the draft as well.
Yes, yeah, we'll be live for all 3 days. Yep.
So you got options. The director's going to be live. Everyone's going to be live. So There's no excuse not to tune into one of us, right?
Or all of us.
Yeah, or all of us at the same time. Have a bunch of different tabs open and comment the same thing in every chat. All All right. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I appreciate you tuning into the live stream.